Music's greatest songs. Worth covering. Original classic hitmakers.
So can you hear the Jamaican flavour here? It's lovely. The West Indian drums. I used to have one of these when I was young. My dad went to film something in Jamaica and he was gone for weeks. And when he came back, he brought me a West Indian drum. And I remember being able to play with it. And oh, God, amazing.
Nice,
and I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And having been to Jamaica and having been to a couple of other Caribbean islands, there is nothing like the feeling when you're there. It's fantastic. And that sound is so synonymous with that area. Let's talk about Boney M. Most, unusual kind of way to form a band, actually. It wasn't what I imagined it to be. And Boney M, very famous. We're talking disco era. We're talking late 60s, early 70s, real disco. So the songs that you know, Hass, you've got...
Daddy Cool is the one.
Daddy Cool, Me Baker. I could play a couple and you'd know them. Sonny. You'd know Sonny.
Sonny, maybe.
Yeah, you
maybe.
Absolutely know. You'll know Rasputin.
Oh, yeah.
Rasputin, amazing.
Where are they from, these guys?
Well, I'm going to tell you. There was also Mary's Boy Child and Rivers of Babylon, very famous
Rivers
songs.
of Babylon.
Yeah, right?
Oh, my God.
This is them. So they were a Euro-Caribbean vocal group originally, but created by a German record producer called Frank Farian. So they had this kind of flavour. And he was their primary songwriter. And they were based originally in West Germany. And there were 4 members. There was Liz Mitchell, Marcia Barrett from Jamaica, Maisie Williams from Montserrat, and Bobby Farrell, who was from Aruba. So you got quite a lovely mix there. They were formed in 1976 and had this massive popularity through the disco set, the late sort of early 70s, late 70s. Oh, and they went into the 80s. And through the 80s is when they started changing sort of their lineup and things like that. They're all allowed to perform. You can still see Boney M, but you'll see different people's versions of Boney M, but they're all allowed to perform the songs. But there's only one Boney M that Frank Farian will actually support. The original producer, he only supports one of them. The thing about this song is so interesting, so I'm going to go into that. I'll tell you a little bit more about the band, just because the setup is really funny. So there's Frank Farian, we'll call him Frank because he's amongst friends, singer-songwriter, and he recorded a dance track, and it was called Baby Do You Wanna Bump. It was 1974, and he released this, and all it was him. So it's him repeating that particular line, and he does it in a deep voice, and then he did this kind of high falsetto chorus, okay? And that's what he did. It was all done in a studio, and he released it as a single. Now, he didn't want to put his own name on it, so he used a pseudonym called Boney M. He said he'd been watching TV, and there was this detective series on, and the credits said Boney at the end, and he went, I like that name, Boney. Yeah, I'm going to Boney M. That's what I'll do. He said it's really simple, nice sound. I'm going to call myself Boney M. So no one knew who he was. Anyway, slow start, but then this song suddenly became huge in the Netherlands and Belgium. And it was then that he decided, right, I better hire some performers to front the group, because he had to do some TV performers. So he went out and he found singer Maisie Williams, and she's from Montserrat, and her Jamaican singer friend Sheila Bonnick. And then they got a dancer known as Mike for the first performance, and off they went. And then you got Jamaica-born Claudia. I don't think I'm saying that right. Claudia Barry, maybe. And then there was a few changes and things like that. They then went on to record a number of albums. There was Take the Heat Off Me, Love for Sale, Night Flight to Venus, Oceans of Fantasy, and my favourite album title, which is Boo Noo Noo News. That is the title of one of the albums. And that was their 5th album. And apparently by the 5th album, everyone had sort of started to lose interest a bit. I mean, they'd had some massive success. But in there, they'd released various songs, and one of them was the one that I'm going to play you. And this is where it gets good, because we can go into the later years, but actually, there's not as much grit to this. This particular song that I'm going to play is super famous, Brown Girl in the Ring. Now, when I'm listening to it, I would never sing it out loud. I would never want to commit, inadvertently a crime around that. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say here. You have to be so careful. I started to research it before I could bring it to the show, and this is what I found amazing. This is a traditional children's song in the West Indies. It was originally featured in a game of the same name, which they think originated in Jamaica. And the song became internationally known when it was recorded by this group. And it was 1978. And it actually was the B-side of Rivers of Babylon, but then became a hit in its own right because it was so unusual and so amazing, and everyone loved it. Now, it had been recorded, this children's song that was sung by, kids everywhere in the West Indies. It had been recorded by a group called Malcolm's Locks. And this is why it's led to In the Ring. Remember this? Yeah. Don't play it yet. I'm not ready. Take it down. So there's a dispute over the royalties because another group had... Now, bear in mind, it's a children's song. So who owns a children's song? We all had these songs when you're sort of in primary school and you all sing them together. There's a game that goes with it.
Okay.
So this original band, Malcolm's Locks, they'd already released it, but then Boney M came along, they released it, and it was a massive hit.
So it goes to the originals.
So,
They sampled it, no? In a way.
Right, well, that's what they done. But both of them are going, but hang on, our version was bigger. And anyway, you didn't write it. It's a children's song with a game, but we've both used it. So that dispute went on for 20 years. It wasn't resolved for 20 years. And the origin of it, children play ring games in many parts of the world. I did in my playground in their preteen years. So there's a brown girl in the ring. This is the name of a book, An Anthropology of Eastern Caribbean Song Games. It's by a guy called Alan Lomax. And he suggested that the ring games are children exploring what it will be like to have adult courtship. They're thinking about themselves as boys and girls, but all kids play it. Okay, so lovely thing. And Boney M's was the most popular version and caused all sorts of chaos. Apparently, in the United States of America, there was a successful series of compilation remixes called Gold 20 Super Hits. And again, it was the same producer, Frank Farian, that remixed Brown Girl in the Ring for a single release in 1993. That's not what we're playing, Eyes Going Back. And vocals are by a lady called Liz Mitchell. It reached number 6 in Denmark. It was the biggest hit in the UK and sat there for about 3 or 4 weeks. Didn't chart in Germany, which is really quite amusing because that's where obviously the producer is from. But there was something really funny. Oh yeah, so they're huge in Moscow and Russia, this band, except Rasputin was banned. So when they went touring there, they weren't allowed to sing the Rasputin one. Yeah, but things like that make me laugh. It's art, it's a song. But, I suppose every country has their sensitivities, and that was one. So now, you won't hear this song a lot, and it's such a tune, and now you know the story behind it. This is a children's game and a children's song, and just was embraced by the whole world. Brown Girl in the Ring, it's Boney M on the Music Greats on Yalla Home.
If you liked this episode of Yalla Home, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.